Gentlemen, how's it going today? I hope you all are doing well and not working too hard. I am taping this from my classroom. Thank you for paying your taxes. I played golf yesterday and had a barbecue with a few individuals from the league, and it was brought up about whether I would make a weekly preview video, and I said, well, of course. I'm happy to do that. If people are interested in watching, that can be something that I do. So we're going to try it this week. We're going to see how it goes, and if people like it, I may continue to do it throughout the season. Maybe not every week, but periodically. Two things I wanted to talk about before we start here, and those are one thing I'm just curious about is this year with the kicking could actually be important because our team's going to go for two with the lengthened extra point. That will be intriguing because sometimes those 4 points you get from kickers on extra points, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, can make a big difference. Second thing I wanted to go over is there are a lot of good free agent wide receiver and running back pickups still to be had. I know there are a couple teams, and we're going to see those weaknesses. As far as running backs go, you can throw a dart at a board and pick a Patriots running back to play this week. Benny Cunningham is a guy in St. Louis who could get some carries. Roy Halou is the third down back for a team that's probably going to be losing because he's a Raider. We have Andre Williams could fall into the end zone for the Giants. James Starks is a situational guy. They put him in for a whole series on a good offense. And then Christian Michael, who knows what's going to happen with him in Dallas. There are a lot of boom guys in the receiver position as well. So if you're just looking to add someone, there's some guys to think about. Okay. The first matchup this week is Juice Me Up against NA. The one thing to note here is both teams have avatars, which is not required, but it's pretty cool. What this one really came down to me, Aaron Rodgers is certainly going to give NA, Mark and Trampus, an advantage most weeks in a great matchup against Chicago. Who's really not good at anything. The problem for me is that there are some boom guys on my team who I just think are going to give me an advantage this week. I think this is closer than the line might suggest. The problem I think for Trampus is Mark is my guys have pretty good matchups this week. Something to kind of pay attention to: who is Joe Hayden going to be guarding? Because if it's Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker could have a good game. I think Joe Hayden's the best corner in the NFL. I don't think it's close. It'll be interesting to see how Cleveland approaches those receivers and if the Jets even throw the football. But I think there are some good players. There are some good possibilities on Mark and Trampus' team, specifically on their bench. But I think there's still some sorting out to be done with some of these players. We don't know which direction these teams are going to go, and it's early in the year. So I think I would side with what we know about my team. Steve Smith will be in this spot. The second matchup, and again, this is the way mine is set up. Yours may or may not be a little bit different. But the second matchup on mine, we have Simply Simple Victory. Once again, Tyler's wife's blog. Check it out. She talks about clothes and food, and liquor was a recent one. That was a good one. Against Adam Brandt and the Mighty Midgets. And what I would state here, first of all, is Peyton Manning did throw for 6 touchdowns against Baltimore in the season opener a couple years ago. So that could happen. I also think that Jamal Charles is the most explosive player in this matchup due to matchup, because I don't like Marshawn Lynch at St. Louis. I think that's a tough matchup for him. He may fall into the end zone. I like Lamar Miller. One thing that's going to be interesting too is Tyler has, you notice, a couple Eagles here. And those of us who believe in Chip Kelly, where's the football going to go? And I think that'll be intriguing early in the year to see who's going to get the targets consistently. I think Ty could be frustrated for a while. What's Aguilar's role? What's going to happen with the running backs? Are they going to be catching passes? Sproles is there. So it's going to be interesting where the ball goes, because I think Philly's going to score some points. One player I like on Adam's team more than most is Dwayne Allen. I think Colby Fleener is going to be phased out. He and Andrew Luck are very good friends, but I think Dwayne Allen's going to have a good year, a top 7 tight end year. I just think Tyler's receivers and certainly his flex and Isaiah Crowell, a guy who's probably going to get almost all the carries. Adam's one of those guys who's going to want to go to the waiver wire, throw a dart at a running back, and maybe see if he can plug someone else in there instead of Terrence West. Yeah, pretty much all there is there. One thing of note, Buffalo, who is playing Indianapolis this week, is a sneaky good defense. I believe they were number 1 or number 2 last year. 7-1 at home last year as well, so not the place that our Colts want to start the season. I don't think that Tyler needs to stream his defense. Excuse me, Adam, whoever had Buffalo, because I think they're that good. Here we have Shake and Bake against Chris Hahn. The first thing that's important here, and I actually jotted this down, is Chris was actually able to fill his roster, which was nice. He was able to start a player at every position. Way to go, Chris. Okay, golf clap for you. I wrote this down and actually didn't intend for pun to be there, but I was frankly proud of myself. I said Jesse lucked out, guy, because this is a tough matchup for Andrew Luck, maybe his toughest of the year. And Jesse's weakness is at quarterback, and Jesse, frankly, just for Chris to win this matchup, I think he would need Andrew Luck to kind of go crazy. I just don't know that that's going to happen at Buffalo. I'd put down also that I think Jeremy Hill and Julio Jones, with these matchups at Oakland and home Philly, have the 2 highest scoring games by non-quarterback in this matchup. But I just like Beckham. I like Beckham and Kelsey a little bit more than Cooper and Eifert. Not in love with Alfred Morris, but I think this is a good matchup for Andre Ellington and Carson Palmer at home against New Orleans. In what could be a high scoring game, Ellington maybe could be used appropriately, and I could see him going over this projection. In this one, I'm taking the underdog Jesse, and again, kind of my reason for that is I think Chris is going to need a lot of production from an unknown. Okay, and by that I mean we don't know what's going on with Brandon Marshall. Again, Joe Hayden is probably going to be guarding him, and I don't like that. Certainly, if the Jets score a touchdown, I just think Jesse's consistency through the middle of his lineup, we know what we're getting regarding targets and carries, at least in the beginning of the year. I'm going to take Jesse in this one in a close one. And notice that is the underdog, but I think Chris's matchups are tough. You don't know what you're getting out of Yeldon. Love Julio and Jeremy Hill this week, but I just don't know that he'll get enough from the rest of his team. Going back to the scoreboard here, we have Luke and Foster. Okay, that's Luckbox against my brother here. This one to me was the toughest one to predict, and I think it could be the closest scoring matchup as well. I like Tom Brady a lot more than Drew Brees this week. Arizona is not an easy team on which to throw. They're pretty good defensively, really, overall. It's always tough to know what Drew Brees is going to do on the road. Tom Brady at home, they're ticked off. I think Brady just goes nuts. And to me, that was a determining factor for me in this matchup, because I like Adams' receivers quite a bit more than Luke's. The tight ends to me are a wash. I think you're looking at the number 2 and 3 tight ends in the league here, and Olsen and Graham behind Gronk in some order there. See what else I have for you here. Adam is someone who streams defenses, so I would look for him to take advantage of someone playing someone not very good. He and I often will be deciding who's going to bid $3 or $2 for a defense. I think he and I both like to pick up defenses. The thing that I found amusing is we're predicting Stephen Hauschka to have 8.5 points as a kicker. Perhaps he's going to rush for 5 yards. That was interesting to me. I prefer Luke's team and by the slightest margin, but again, it's just because I think Tom Brady is going to be upset. That's a Thursday night game to open the year against a Pittsburgh team that is horrible defensively. You're going to want to watch that game. If you have fantasy players involved in the Pittsburgh-New England game, play all of them. All of them. Okay. This is the Butt Buddies against Jason's team, Team Lollipop. And I would guess that this is the toughest week of matchups for the Butt Buddies, for Danny and Ryan. And that's really my issue is, you have Mark Ingram against an Arizona team on the road. Forsett against Denver. That one doesn't hurt me so much as the rest of them are all playing pretty good defenses. I think Jordan Cameron scores a touchdown this week, excuse me. But I just think the players who are explosive and yet consistent on Jason's team, to me, in this one, are why I would lean him. Eddie Lacy, Des Bryant, Matt Ryan in a matchup at home against Philadelphia on a Monday night game. They're going to be amped for that. And On the other side, you have Russell Wilson against the St. Louis team. It's pretty good at home, especially on defense. And then Jason also has these wild cards, and Brandon Cooks. Again, Patrick Peterson's a really, really good corner, but he gambles a lot. So I think Cooks gets deep in that game. Don't like Reggie Bush. And again, these guys over here, we have some really, really good players, but they have tough matchups. So just for this week, I'm leaning toward Jason's team over our favorite Butt Buddies, our champions from last season. Which really, leads me into this, as I'm going into this next matchup, the importance of matchups. And I know if you follow any of the rankers on ESPN or other websites, it's important to have depth, and that's something that some of us sacrifice for studs, but sometimes you just run into matchups that are brutal. And looking ahead, try to avoid those in weeks 14 through 16 if you know you're going to make the playoffs. Okay? The last matchup here, we have 50 Shades of Clay against It's Des for 6. This is Gray against Brent. The most interesting thing to me is you notice Bray is a big Packer fan. Here's his avatar. He's rooting on Jay Cutler, which to me is amusing because Jay Cutler is terrible, and he is a Bear, a rival of the Packers. So I find that rather intriguing. One other thing, and I love this here. I'm a big fan of playing your best player at flex just because it's funny. So Gray does that. I like both these quarterbacks this week, both pretty good matchups. I'm going to lean Romo just a little bit. I think this is the Sunday night game. Seems like those atmospheres, it doesn't matter who they play in that NFC division, but they're just more points scored. I don't think that there will be as many rushing touchdowns in Dallas this year. And I really like Tony Romo in that matchup. I think that game is played in the upper 20s, 30s. Couple questions just to bring up for Brent is we're quickly going to find out how good Latavius Murray is. A lot of people are very, very high on him. Not a lot of sample size. I know he had the one game, 4 carries for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns against somebody last year. How good is he? Because he's fast. He's a freak. That's going to be important. In this one, who am I picking? I'm taking Brent just because I like his receivers. I think in a matchup that is this close, I'm going to go with the team where I think I know what I'm going to get, while also having more explosiveness. And both of these teams have weaknesses. Tevin Coleman, Bishop Sankey, those aren't guys you really want to start. I'm going to go Brent just by a little bit. And again, I think I like his 3 receivers a lot. I think they could all get into the end zone. I think each of them is playing in a really high-scoring game, at least for the offenses. So I'm going to lean Brent in this one. Okay. So to recap, and guys, I'm really excited for the year. To recap here, I am picking Juice Me Up, Simply Simple Victory, Shake and Bake is my underdog selection. Going with my brother here, I'm going to go with the Lollipop, and I'm going to take Brent Davison, who is another slight underdog here according to ESPN. Guys, I hope you enjoy watching this week. Let me know if you like the video. I can continue, or this could be my last one. Got to loosen up my tie, go get some ice because I got to coach today. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure discussing with you. Hope you all win or lose in week 1.